Hello, I'm Tae Kim, climate presenter from the Climate Reality Project Korea District. Today, I'm going to talk about natural disasters and human impacts. Before starting my presentation, I would like to start by asking a quick question. After seeing this image from Louisiana and this image from Arizona, what do you think has caused these events? Similar to what you might have thought, these events indeed happen due to extreme weather catastrophes, which catastrophes mean 재앙 in Korean. If we start by seeing the blue part of the graph, which represents flood and mudslides, you can see that it approximately accounts for 50 events. However, if you see the same blue part in 2020, which starts from 370 to 870, it now happens more frequently with about 500 events per year, 10 times the value of that of 1980s. Similar, but a little milder than floods and mudslides, the number of storms, which is the orange part, and the number of extreme temperature, which is the red part, also followed the same trend of increasing over the years. Revealing this tremendous change, the graph shows that our climate is rapidly changing due to an increase in temperature. Starting with storms, which went to severest increase over the years, this is a photo from India, where a week of cyclone Tauktae ravaged western India and forced the evacuation of 1.1 million, which is 110만 명 in Korean. Compared to the population of 세종시, it was about 3 times the 세종시's population that had to move. This photo from Mexico shows that cyclone and hurricanes can harm not only the people, but also their habitats. If people suddenly have their houses destroyed and therefore inhabitable, they would have their life threatened. Now, in addition to making these cyclonic storms, hurricanes, typhoons, increasing temperature also means a lot more water vapor goes into the sky. Warmer vapor can hold more water vapor. Warmer ocean evaporates more water vapor into the sky. For each 1 degree increase in temperature, we get 7% increase in the amount of water vapor. There's already 5% more water in the sky than there was just 30 years ago. And that means we get these rain bombs, even in the absence of cyclonic storms. This is a rain bomb from Montana, and this is from Texas. These rain bombs and other impacts like storms can lead to more extreme flood in many areas. Imagine that it is Monday morning and you must go to the school. However, as you can see in the picture, the rain has covered all the streets. How would you feel during this dangerous situation? As this video shows, several subway stations in New York State were flooded after Storm Elsa attacked the area. Considering that subway is one of the major transportation for people, a single storm caused enormous difficulties for people who have to go to their workplaces or their houses. Like the hurricane example before, the mudslide that happened due to floods can cause habitat destruction, as shown above. And generally, this is happening worldwide, 4 times more frequently than it was just 40 years ago. And scientists are telling that it is going to get worse. Now, pivoting. The same extra heat that is trapped, which causes all this extra evaporation of the oceans, it also pulls the soil moisture out of the top meter of the soil on the road. And that means the droughts take hold more quickly. For example, it was reported that 91% of US West is experiencing moderate to exceptional drought, and California, Nevada, Utah are 100% in drought. Another example is this Lake Powell situated in Utah. As you can see on the top, historically, The water level in Lake Poel was relatively high, and there was many fish habitats. However, correlating with the increase in temperature, in June 2021, the water level decreased severely. And just a year after that massive decrease, the water level again experienced an unprecedented decrease, dropping to just 23% of its capacity. Moreover, this is a photo from France, where you can see the cracks in the ground due to the extreme drought in the country. This made land unsuitable for crop growth, and therefore many farmers who sustain their life by farming face major difficulties. Increased temperature not only causes more drought, but also causes more wildfires. When temperature increased from 64 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit from 1980 to 2018, the number of large wildfires also increased from less than 50 to more than 150 events. This correlation again verifies that temperature and the number of wildfires have a close relation. Since annually, wildfire can already burn millions of hectares and force hundreds or even thousands to evacuate, people must work to slow or stop the increase in temperature. Due to wildfires, many countries like Greece and California suffer from heritage loss. There was even a fire that happened inside the ocean in Mexico, which shows that wildfires can affect people in various ways that are even unpredictable. And this is an example from Gangwon-do, which has most connection with our lives. I want to focus more on this particular event and show you a news report regarding this event. As described in the news report, area resembling 29,000 soccer fields were destroyed by the forest fires, and other human habitats were destroyed. It was only the help of the rain that we were able to turn off the fire. Therefore, considering that there might not be a rain in the future, we have to prevent the fire from happening in the first place. As Pope Francis said, the gravest effects of all attacks on the environment are suffered by the poorest. As poor people especially don't have the ability to save themselves from danger, we, therefore, all have to start acting to stop the climate change, at least for them. Next, there will be a presentation on global health. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Edward from the Climate Reality Leadership Project, Sejong Forum. So first, I will introduce myself. My name is Edward. 한국 이름은 김은혁이고요. I am a part of this Al Gore Korea Climate Reality presenter crew, and I am currently a climate reality presenter. I have completed the Al Gore Leadership Project and am officially one of the members of the Climate Reality Project. So today I'll be talking about global health. Global health essentially is any issue or problems that arises within this earth, and this scope actually includes a lot of different issues. So today we'll be talking about issues such as heat or other global problems such as pandemics or air pollution. So first, let's talk about just some of the various things which are under the scope of the global health problem. For example, things such as extreme weather events or infectious diseases, water, food, air pollution, heat stress, allergens, mental health. These are all issues that fall within the scope. So these are the types of infrastructure at risk from extreme weather. So first, I'll be explaining a few. There are things such as train tracks, which are predominantly affected by heat, flood barriers that are predominantly affected by natural disasters, drinking water systems, which falls under the water scope and is caused not only from heat, but also from pollution. Sewage systems, obviously from pollution. Roads have a lot of issues that cause these problem on the road infrastructure. Problems such as heat or as well as natural disasters cause roads to be an infrastructure that is at risk. and bridges from mostly from natural disasters, airport runways from similar causes as roads, dams, power plants, power lines, internet, and headphone lines are all problems that are caused by natural disasters. Oil and gas pipelines are depleting resources. Building foundations, stormwater drainage, subways, and agriculture are all types of infrastructures that are at risk from extreme weather. This actually shows a scope of how large this problem of global health is and how this isn't actually an issue that we can actually avoid for much further. First, we'll talk about air pollution. This is Eastern Houston, Texas, and this is this is showing a town in Houston where it's right next to a factory, and this is one of the prime examples of why people from this community specifically are having a huge amounts of air problems. And not only this is just one part of the country which is having this problem. There are more than 40% of the people in the United States of America don't actually live in counties that actually meet the EPA air quality standards. So what is the EPA air quality standards? Here's the chart. So basically the EPA guidelines say 0 to 50 and 51 to 100. So 0 to 100 is fine. It's still air. It's okay to go outside, live a normal life, but anywhere within the scope of 101 to 500 is not considered healthy and should be taken as a serious issue, as it can seriously limit the amount of activity that can be done outside. Reducing air pollution levels in European cities, according to the World Health Organization, recommends could prevent almost 50,000 deaths each year. These calls from a variety of sources, things such as pollution or like people who accidentally drink water from rivers that are polluted, or people who are infected by infectious diseases caused by air pollution. All of these factors add up to almost a total of 50,000 deaths per year. And here's another problem: poverty. Poverty is actually a really big factor in this air pollution, because if you think about it, overall, African Americans are 3 times as likely to die from particulate air pollution as well as the overall population. And even though all these gases are actually made in the city side, where these pollutions are given are to the more urban areas, to the more rural areas where people are not able to afford a clean sewage system. And here's a place in Poland. The name is Warsaw. A baby born in Warsaw today will inhale an equivalent of 1,000 cigarettes within their first year of life from smog and other air pollutants. Let's put this into scope. 1,000 cigarettes is 50 packs. Because each pack has 20. 50 packs of cigarettes within their first year of life. We're talking about babies here. We're not talking about people who are 20, 30, people whose body are able to handle it. These babies are not able to handle this amount of damage to their lungs. And this is one of the prime reasons why air pollutions add up to a total of 50,000 deaths per year. Methane leakage from natural gases operations has been found to be 60% higher than the previous US administration claimed, which actually shows that a lot of these issues and a lot of these problems are not actually very well addressed by the government. Now we'll talk about heat stress. Many parts of the tropics in particular, which is home to almost 3 billion people of this earth, will experience unlivable heat and humidity if global temperatures rise more than 1.5 degrees. People actually see this 1.5 degrees as not a lot, but to people already living in more hot areas, 1.5 degrees makes all the difference. In India, summer heat may soon be literally unbearable, as an article written by the journalist Soumini Segupta. This article is a really good read. I recommend that you read it at least once. It's an article which in detailed manner shows and very well describes the amount of problems that heat stress has been causing for those living in India. So actually, this is once again talking about poverty. Those who are the most vulnerable to heat are the poor and homeless, the elderly, infants and children, as stated by the Poland slide where I talk about how children within their first year actually experience as much health damage to their lungs as smoking 1,000 cigarettes. And especially those with, not only those, but those with pre-existing medical conditions are especially vulnerable to heat, as their respiratory conditions and other conditions make them unable to really take the heat. And those who are mentally ill and agricultural workers and others with outdoor jobs are also very vulnerable to heat, which shows that although heat actually damages everyone, but the damage isn't equal, and there are some who are more vulnerable and some who are less vulnerable. So now lastly, I will talk about infectious disease. Climate change is currently disrupting the natural ecosystem in a way that is making life better for infectious diseases, as said by Andrew Dobson, who is currently a professor in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at Princeton University. So let's put into scope what this quote is talking about. 75% of all emerging infectious diseases are zootonic, meaning they are transmitted from animals to humans. Zootonic means that these are talking about diseases that are transmitted from animals. So for example, COVID is currently classified as a zootonic species. And even though this talks about animals, it includes the scope of insects as well. So many viruses such as the Zika virus or the dengue virus are all within the scope of zootonic viruses. Here is a photo showing when COVID first hit Korea extremely hard, and this was when the first time when the amount of new infected members of society toll became above 12,000. So here's a photo of Indonesia, and Indonesian villages near forest experience a 10% increase in malaria cases for every 1% decline in forest cover. So forest cover actually helps to decrease the case of malaria because that's where the mosquitoes primarily live. They don't come to the places where people live, but due to declines in forest cover, they are coming more and more to the people and they are getting affected. So these are tropical diseases on the move. So this chart shows a list of all the diseases that are currently on the move from the tropics. So these are diseases that originated from the tropics but are moving to people due to deforestation. Those who are using their voices, their votes, and their choices to fight for the future, their community, and the world. Please join us. This is talking about how you, as a person, hold the power, and you have votes, and you can make choices to decrease this issue of environmental pollution. So use your voice, your vote, and your choices. Speak truth to the power like the world depends on it, because it literally does. After the final no, there comes a yes, and on that yes, the future world depends. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I am Connie Park, climate leader from the Climate Reality Project Korea District. Today I'm going to talk about global systems vulnerable or weak to climate change because of this disruption. So especially I'm going to talk about global water systems being disrupted by climate change. So this is a picture that shows the global water usage. 69% are used for agriculture, where we farm and grow crops. 19% are used for industrial usage, so when we work in factories, and 12% is for domestic usage, where we use in homes, like washing our hands or brushing our teeth. Climate change is changing the whole water system in 3 ways. First of all, I'm going to talk about how ice is melting. Second, how sea level is rising. And lastly, global warming that's happening inside the ocean. So between 1/3 and 2/3 of Himalayan glaciers will melt by 2100, depending on how quickly we reduce emissions. And these glaciers are the white things that are covered upon the mountain, and these are thick sheets of ice. The reason why this is so important is because these glaciers provide water to approximately 1/4 of the world's population. The rate of ice melt in the Himalayas has doubled since the year 2000. Now let's look at the lakes. So Lake Chad has almost completely disappeared as the temperatures have gone up. Some of the people who used to live in this region had to move east to the Darfur region where others were living. This is also another lake that has disappeared because of temperature rises. This was the largest lake in Iran, but it's completely disappeared now. Greenland's ice is melting 4 times faster than originally thought, and more is melting from the permanent ice sheet than from glaciers. Now, when the glaciers melt, this is what happens. So all of this turns into meltwater, and these sled dogs are running upon the meltwater. What you're now looking at is the North Pole and Greenland. It is land covered with glaciers, and polar bears live on these glaciers. The problem here is that the floating ice on top of the Arctic Ocean is melting. Extra heat from global warming is causing it to melt more rapidly, and the white sheet of ice has disappeared, rising the sea level. And this has a very big impact on the amount of ice in the Arctic Ocean. Over the last 1,500 years, the amount of ice has drastically disappeared. And when glaciers melt, sea level rises. The problem is that countries are going to be in danger of sinking underwater, and many of them are in South Asia, like Shanghai or Bangkok. This is a photo of an octopus in a parking garage because sea level rose and it was sinking the land underneath. Also in Venice, Italy, there were a lot of floods, and there have 6 times in the last 1,200 years. And 4 of them occurred in the last 20 years, which is very fast. Also, in the Veneto Regional Council, they had a council to talk about how we can tackle climate change. And their ultimate decision was to reject all of those proposals. And after a few minutes about this decision, the chamber was flooded, obviously because of climate change. And this was very ironical. Kiribati also is the first nation to purchase land in another country to house its climate refugees because there is no land for them to live when seawater rises. Also, because of ocean water getting into the ground, the land that was originally used for farming and growing crops has become too salty that it can't grow crops anymore. In 2020, Vietnamese farmers lost more than 1.1 million acres of crops in the Mekong Delta due to this salty land and drought. And as a result, 2,400 migrants from the Mekong Delta is happening every year to find new areas for their agriculture and farming. This is a view of the Pacific Ocean, and 93% of heat generated by human activities goes into the ocean, meaning that the ocean gets warmer. The first problem of warm ocean is because it gets harder for the ocean to control the Earth's temperature. So originally, as ocean currents circulate, they help control the Earth's temperature. However, warm water slows down this circulation. The second problem is that the ocean becomes acidified. So at the ocean surface, it absorbs CO2, which becomes carbonic acid when mixed with ocean water. This eventually increases the amount of acid in the ocean. So same as like if we drink too much Coke, our teeth rots. And that's going to be same for marine animals. Acidified water leads to the death of coral reef and clams. The last problem is that warm oceans make algae to grow faster. Algae is these green colored creatures, and algae creates toxic substances that harms humans' eyes and lungs. But not only does it harm humans, but it also threatens sea life. So this is a whale shark that has been killed because of this algae bloom. Due to climate change from global warming, marine vertebrates declined 49% on average from 1970 to 2012. And experts predict that if the current rate of warming is continued, then by 2050, half of all these plant and animal species are going to be threatened with extinction. So what can we do? We say mass activism. So get out to streets and shout out your voices. So for example, the Climate Reality Project has done an event in 2017 with the 광화문 자원순환의 campaign. And we talked about resource circulation and shared our ideas on the small things that we can do for our Earth. Not only the Climate Reality Project, but all around the globe are participating in these climate march. And especially there are teenagers, like in Tennessee, Uruguay, Ecuador, Michigan, Kenya, Uganda, India, Spain, and Indonesia. And this is also a video that shows a huge march on the eve of one of the previous global UN summits on climate. And here, 400,000 people marched in New York City. So please join those who are using their voices, votes, and choices to fight for their future, their community, and their world. Use your voice, your vote, your choices to speak truth to power like your world depends on it. You can also start from minor things like turning off the light when you're not using it or recycling your trash. Your world depends on it. And after the final no, there comes a yes. And on that yes, the future world depends. Thank you for listening.